It seems every day we open the papers and read about celebrities appearing to beat the law. Only last week, Top Gear presenter Jeremy Clarkson had his speeding case dropped on a technicality. And yesterday it was reported that Colin Montgomery escaped a fine as well. If we believe what we read, it does seem that the stars think they're above the law. Joining me now is showbiz columnist Jessica Callan and the lawyer the stars turn to in their time of need, Mr. Loophole himself, Nick Freeman. Welcome back, Jessica. Nick, welcome. Nick, before we start this mini debate here, just be clear, who have you defended and got off?
A few celebrities.
Yeah.
David Beckham, Sir Alex Ferguson, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Colin Montgomery, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson last week. There have been a few over the years, but I have been around for a few years.
You phone number handy, in case I get the fine on the way home.
0161 236 777.
But I mean, this, to the rest of us, and all right, I work in show business, but I don't regard myself quite in the Beckham League yet. This is arguably disgraceful that you get them off on technicalities. Jessica, what do you think of it?
I just think it's, if you can afford it, and you can afford to hire people who know the loopholes and know the technicalities, then it's quite shocking. It's the rich and the powerful stay rich and powerful, and those who can't afford it end up in jail when, quite frankly, they could have got off for the same reason.
Well, people are being acquitted every single day, and the only difference with a celebrity and Joe Public is you hear about the celebrity and you don't hear about Joe Public, so you get a totally distorted view of the number of acquittals in relation to celebrities. For example, the last 10 cases I've done, you'll have probably read of one or two of them. You won't have read of the others because they're not people in the public eye, and we're obsessed with celebrity status and people in the public eye, and I'm sure that distorts the way the media approach them and the public perception. So you make that sort of comment, but I don't actually think it's a true representation of actually what is happening in the courts. People are acquitted all the time.
Someone like Pete Doherty, who can't seem to get arrested no matter what he does, and in fact one of the magistrates said to him, "Oh, I love your music," and apart from the fact she must be deaf, this woman, she was clearly bedazzled by his fame, and you kind of think, if that was anyone else, a regular person who was on drugs charges for Class A drugs possession, I mean, he's on his third postponement of sentencing now, and keeps getting caught with drugs and keeps getting acquitted for it. It's unbelievable.
Well, he's not being acquitted, the case is being adjourned. There's a different set of magistrates every time that deals with him. And they're trying to help him. He's clearly got a drug problem, possibly a drink problem as well, I don't know. So what's happening is the same that would happen to other people with the same sort of addictions. He's being helped by the system. It's rehabilitation as well as punitive.
Nick, he hasn't been rehabilitated at all, but I mean,
Well, it hasn't, but they're trying. Before they say, look, enough's enough, we're going to try and do whatever we can to give you a lift.
But if Joe Soap goes in and says, I'm trying my best to bang him up, send him away, it does seem to those of us who read the papers that there's one law for the rich and famous and another one for somebody who's unknown.
But the difficulty is you're not reading about Joe Soap. It's happening.
Well, but we do in local papers.
Well,
so when we do read local papers as well as nationals.
Every day there are hundreds and hundreds of people who are being dealt with in exactly the same way as Pete Doherty, but you just don't hear about it.
So, I come to you and I say, Nick, I did this, I was going last week down a road and, it's happened to me. I've got points on my licence because I've done 42 in a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Get me off. What do? I have done 42 in a 30-mile-an-hour limit. I'm sorry, I wish I hadn't been found out and I think it's rotten, but I did it.
Of course that's your choice. It's your choice to speed, and it's your choice to decide if you want to hold your hands up from a moral standpoint and also from a legal standpoint. But some people think, well, yes, morally I'm culpable, but actually I need my licence for work. There are cameras literally on every road. I'm doing 50,000 miles a year. I need to put food on the plate for my children and wife. So I'm going to get legal representation, and there's a massive amount of people doing what I'm doing out there. I'm not the only one in the country.
But don't you feel in a way it's kind of morally dodgy that you are saying, yes, okay, we know you did it, but I'll get you off?
Well, first of all, I don't discuss it with the client at all. What happens is you'll send me the papers, and the way I operate is I look at the prosecution papers, find out what's wrong with it, put the prosecution to proof. So your instructions to a large extent are completely irrelevant. What I'm doing is I'm challenging the way the prosecution prosecute these matters. So they're not proving the case, they're not discharging the burden. That's how I operate. So morally, in my view, that is what defence lawyers should do.
But they still were speeding, though. This is what I don't understand, that people like Clarkson, whoever, were speeding, but...
How did you get
Sorry,
Clarkson off?
When you say he was speeding, you don't even know he was driving. You have no idea that he was driving. He was summonsed with failing to furnish information. He wasn't summonsed with speeding. So you're making an assumption which is wholly unfair. It's pure speculation. It's not based on any evidence. That is what the media do.
And this is what a lawyer does, you see. Very clever.
Well, they're all
snaking your way through. Excellent. Very good. You're good at it, aren't you,
There's nothing
really?
slippery about it. It's very straightforward. He wasn't summonsed with speeding. So everyone thinks, oh, the car was doing 82 and a 50. He was speeding.
So if somebody came to you and said, you know, I want you to handle this, and it was ludicrous, patently obvious that they'd done it, patently obvious that they ought to be prosecuted, if it was more serious than just speeding, if it was drink driving or whatever, would there be a point at which you would say, no, you're on your own, mate?
As a defence lawyer, everyone is entitled to have a defence lawyer look at the case and put the Crown to proof. There is nothing morally wrong with that or legally wrong with that. And the law is there. We elect Parliament, Parliament makes the laws. And what is wrong with the defence lawyer saying, look, this is what you say is done, you've got to prove it. There's a presumption of innocence, isn't there? You don't stand up in court and say, oh, I'm guilty, you prove otherwise. That should never happen, not in this country. There's a presumption of innocence, the prosecution have to prove the case. And what I'm doing is simply testing the system.
And therein lies the law, Jessica.
Absolutely.
So you're stuck with it.
But then you look at, you know, different case entirely, celebrities in America and the way they get out of things is, I mean, that's a whole nother world of stuff. People like, well, Nicole Richie, who was arrested for driving under the influence.
We'll have to do a lot of allegedlys.
A lot of allegedlys, and served 82 minutes in jail recently. Didn't even get to change into her orange overalls. And I mean, that really is a kind of a world apart. And people like Paris Hilton, who spent more than 82 minutes. And look how well she's done out of the back of it. It's quite unbelievable when they do serve these time and when they do actually get
long may the law defend the innocent, but let's just hope that the loopholes don't get too big and cavernous. Thank you both very much indeed, Jessica and Nick. Thank you.